Hello guys! My topic is all about relative deprivation theory and general strain theory. By the way, I am Ibopoltexer Igornes from BSU 1-8. First, let's talk about who is Samuel A. Stuffer. He born at June 6, 1900s and dead at August 24, 1960. Samuel A. Stuffer served as the 42nd President of American Sociology Association. His presidential address, Measurement in Sociology, was delivered on September 1, 1953. At the end of Association annual meeting in Berkeley, California, and was later published in the American Sociology Review. That is on December 1953. What is relative deprivation? A person will be relatively deprived if she feels anger or dissatisfaction because of his discrimination in relation to the better situated others. Relative deprivation, in short, the perceive or the difference between personal status and the status of some relevant others. Without using the concept of quality of life explicitly, the concept of relative deprivation is described from the beginning in terms quality of life sustainably. Next is relative deprivation refers to deprive. It means deprive and it refers to inequality. It means the idea of people are deprived materially or in other ways compared with other in society. It really suggests that his alongside marginalization and subcultures in a significant cause of crime. Example dito, deprive. Yung parang naapakan ka na ng tao. Ganun. It refers to inequality. Yung gender equality, ganun. Yung pag-discriminate, ganun. Ganun mga example niyan. Next is, who is Walter Rusinman? Introducing one of the first formal definition of relative deprivation, British statesman and sociologist Walter Rusinman listed 4 required conditions. And here are the first. First, a person does not have something. You can see the underlined word, does not have something. Ibig sabihin, wala ka. Wala ka nun. Wala ka ng isang bagay na ganito. Second, the person knows other person who have the thing. Dito naman sa second, alam mo kung sino yung tao na meron. Third is the person wants to have the thing. Ito, yung tao namang ito, marami kang bagay na gusto at gusto mo ito makuha. And fourth, that person believes that they have a reasonable chance of getting the thing. Ito, parang siya katulad ng number 3. Pero dito sa number 4, naniniwala ka na makukuha mo yung isang bagay na yun. Next, the 2 types of relative deprivation. First is the egoistic. Egoistic relative deprivation is driven by an individual's feelings. Yung pasarili, ganito, pasarili lang. Of being treated unfairly compared to others in group. Yun, yung hindi patas na pagtrato sa isang tao, ganun. For example, an employee who feels they should have gotten a promotion that went to another employee may feel egoistically, relatively deprived. Yun nga, yung dapat na sa'yo yung promotion na yun, pero hindi. Kato dito sa picture, ito example na to. Imbis na kunin mo yung kamay nung nasa taas para may angat ka, hindi mo bitaw-bitawan yung ego mo, kaya mas nahihirapan ka. Next is fraternalistic. Fraternalistic is more often associated with massive group social movements, like the civil rights movement. Dito, sa example na to, makikita nyo sa picture, nagrarally sila kasi meron silang pinaglalaban as a group. Iyon ang pagkakaiba ng dalawa, ang egoistic, pansarili, ang fraternalistic, pangmaramihan as a group. Next, relative versus absolute deprivation. Relative deprivation has a counterpart, and this is absolute deprivation. Both of these are measures of poverty in a given country. Next, absolute deprivation describes a condition in which household income falls below a level needed to maintain the basic necessities of life such as food and shelter. Relative deprivation describes a level of poverty at which household income drops to a certain percentage below the country's median income. For example, a country's level of relative poverty could be set at 50% of its median income. And that's all about the relative deprivation theory. Next, we are talking about the second topic, the general strain theory by Robert Agnew. Let's start with the first slides. Who is Robert Agnew? Robert Agnew is a pioneer of general strain theory. He received its 2015 Edwin H. Sutherland Award, also known as a Lifetime Award in Criminology. Robert Agnew, general strain theory, now acknowledged that events which are perceived to be especially negative by those who experience them are possibly correlated with a greater likelihood of criminal behavior. Strain theory has been used to explain a variety of criminal phenomena. Robert Agnew born at December 1, 1953 at Atlantic City, New Jersey. His age is 67 or 68 from now. His scientific career is criminology, juvenile delinquency, and social psychology. What is general strain theory? General strain theory provides a unique explanation of crime and delinquency in contrast to control and learning theories. GST focuses explicitly on a negative treatment by others, and it's the only major theory of crime and delinquency to highlight the role of negative emotion in the etiology of offending. According to GST, the experience of strain or stress tends to generate negative emotions such as anger, frustration, depression, despair. And this negative emotion turn that said to create pressure for corrective action, with crime or delinquency being one possible responses. GST was designed in part to address criticisms leveled against previous versions of strain theory. Early versions of strain theory have been criticized for focusing on a narrow range of possible strains, for their inability to explain why only some strain individuals resort to criminal or delinquency, and for limited empirical support. GST have been partially successful in involving these limitations. Since its conception, the theory has received a considerable amount of attention from researchers, has enjoyed a fair amount of empirical support, and has been credited by helping to revitalize the strain theory tradition. Next is, according to Robert Agnew, general strain theory is based on three different factors. And here the first. First, the failure to achieve a goal. As you can see in the picture, yung lalaki, nahihirapan siyang makataas dun sa pinakataas na yon dahil dun sa mga nahuhulog na gulong or something na bilog. Example nito yung death of the parent and of relation. Ang example pala nito ay yung good grades. Hindi mo siya agad-agad makukuha gawa ng mga traits na to, yung mga bilog na to. Second is the removal of positive impulses. Yan, yung makikita nyo sa picture na may couple na pinaghihiwalay ng gunting. Katulad, example na lang ay ang death of a parent. Yung mamatay magulang mo. Kaya yun, removal of positive impulses. Second is the end of a relationship. Diba? Sobrang sakit nun. Ouch. And the third is the existence of harmful impulses. Makita nyo sa picture na yung babae para siyang nawawala sa sarili, ganito. Example nito, isang malaking example nito, yung school problems. Yan. Sobrang hirap sa isang estudyante na hindi magawa yung mga pinapagawa ng isang teacher o ng isang prof. Kaya nagkakaproblema. Agnosis is the reason why some react to the psychological stress with norm compliant and others with criminal behavior in the lack of coping skills. Example, intelligence, creativity, problem solving skills, and etc. In additional, negative factors such as criminal environment or criminal character traits have a negative influence on dealing with stress. Next, implication for criminal policy. Agnews' criminal policy demands can be regarded as manifold, as this theory also has been several different causal factors. First of all, it can be assumed that generalizing theory as a theory related to Merton's considerations as a good social policy with the possibility of achieving his individual goals. Example, the materials. Is also related to good social policy. Social inequality in society leads to higher pressure on the disadvantaged member and thus an increase in the likelihood for becoming a criminals. Second, due to a certain approximation to the control and attachment theories, Agnews' criminal policy implication must also be taken into account. The loss of positive stimuli and the experience of negative stimuli are mostly changed within the individual social environment or can be at least be reinforced or prevented by it. And finally, the coping strategies mentioned in the strain theory allow to another form of crime prevention. Since the decisive factors for committing a crime are ultimately anger and frustration, it must be the task of socialization or resocialization programs to learn alternative ways of thinking and behaving that prevent or at least contain the emergencies of such as emotions. An example would be the so-called hot hair, minute na buhok, from social therapy, which is intended to train the correct handling and negative emotions. They said that strain leads to criminal acts. Strain daw, nagli-lead sa criminal acts. Kata dito sa picture, yan, gumawa sila ng krimen. Kasi, may nagano sa kanila, kaya nakagawa sila ng krimen. For Agno 1992, criminal acts can be, first, the instrumental. As you can see in the pictures, may nahulog na cellphone. Ito yung isang example ng instrumental. Napulot mo yung cellphone, tapos hindi mo na siya binalik. Or nakapulot ka ng pera, ng mga bagay, ng bag, pero hindi mo na binalik. Yun ibig sabihin ng instrumental. Next is the retaliatory. Yun, may kita nyo dito sa picture na may nag-aaway. Ibig sabihin, yung retaliatory, ibig sabihin ay revenge sa kaaway. Yung paghiganti mo, kasi meron, itong taong to may ginawa sa'yo, kaya gustong-gusto mo maghiganti. Hindi ka titigil hanggat hindi ka nakapaghiganti. And third, the escapist. As you can see in the pictures, the person takes drugs to forget everything. Magtitake ka ng drug or something, kahit ano man na makakalimot ka, mag-iinom ka ng magdamag, mag-iinom ka ng drugs, yan, para makalimutan mo lang yung lahat. And that's all for the general strain theory. Thanks for watching. By the way, I'm Paul Chexer A. Gornes from BSC 1-8